Welcome to this episode of YouTube, where I've entitled it Summer Enrichment. And that is a program that we actually do from June 15th until August 15th. Every day at noon is a program that stimulates the wolves during a time when they're typically not very active. During the summer season, wolves are more crepuscular, active at dawn and dusk, and they have a tendency to be a little bit more restful during the middle of the day. That's just an adaptation to try to prevent overheating. But the bug season is on. So these animals have evolved to be covered with hair and not sweat glands, so that makes cooling one of those things where they either pant to evaporate heat off of their tongue or, like you're seeing here with Aiden, try to find a cool place to lie down. The other thing they try to avoid is bugs, and we find that the insect population is alive and well in the vegetation, so the more rock you can rest around, the more kind of open dirt, or sometimes they go underground. It avoids that irritant during the summertime. So the wolf enrichment, we're going to actually do a compilation YouTube later on in the summer to show you all the things that we've done. But right now, what we're seeing is obviously yearlings growing up, and this is Bolts up on top and Axel and Grayson in the back, and they're circling around the den with Denali in the den. So it is a natural process for young animals to look for opportunities to test, and that's one of the things that we see around this time of age. It will increase as they approach 2 years of age, but at this point, the focus is there, the opportunity is there, and certainly Denali had a little bit of a contentious relationship with these yearlings when they came in. If you recall, Aiden was very accommodating, very social, rolling over for the pups, guarding them, protecting them. Bolts kind of played with them like he was another pup himself, and Denali was the one who did a lot of chasing and a lot of foreleg stabbing, a lot of kind of antagonistic behavior, and that means that Denali is a little bit of their focus of testing. Now, this could very well have been because Aiden was out a little bit for surgery. He wasn't out physically, but mentally, as far as a pack leader, when he wasn't feeling very well after the surgical removal of the mass tumor, he was isolating himself a little bit up on top of the pen. He was not interacting as much, and so that might have been enough to make a little bit of a void where the yearlings started to take advantage of things. But Aiden's back to full strength right now. Certainly he's leading the pack. He's kind of watching what's going on. And certainly Denali was one of those wolves that Aiden would dominate, because that's probably was, in Aiden's mind, the one that was maybe more threatening to him from the standpoint of his status. But like I said, Aiden is clearly engaged in the pack. He's a complete recovery of that incision. It is now closed. It has been dry. It's not been an issue. We're watching for any recurring signs of tumors, but at this point, this was a clean removal of a mast cell and a growth, and we believe that that particular situation has been under control. So, like I said, we're just kind of watching that. Denali, using the same technique that Aiden used in 2009, is using the den as his kind of safety network, so keeping himself close to the den. So we're watching not just our interactions when we're here, but we're watching surveillance camera as well to be able to see kind of when things start and how they interact and who's involved with it. And at this point, you're just seeing probably Grayson taking the lead, doing a lot of face-offs. This is Grayson, still got a little bit of that pine pitch on his left side there. And obviously Denali uncomfortable about having the yearling circle behind him. So it's a little bit of a turnabout. A year ago in August, it was Grayson who had the tucked tail, with Denali focusing around and facing off with him, and now it's a reverse. And so at this point, Denali's able to still kind of do some threat displays. You see Aiden off the side, who's watching these yearlings, watching the interaction, but not intervening. So again, we take the lead from Aiden as the pack leader. When there's energy that's a little bit chaotic, he typically gets involved. And in this case, Grayson goes down into a stalk and kind of a crouch, waiting for Denali to come around. You see Axel stalking as well. So part of this is just the predatory mind of wolves and young animals taking opportunities to hone those predatory skills on other pack members. Not uncommon, and it's certainly something that we have seen in the past with wolves. And one of the things that we train our staff for is to really key into what those behaviors are. And what are we looking for? It's circling, it's stalking, it's crouching, it's eye stalking, not just physically stalking. So watching other pack members, etc. So everything is documented here, including grooming behavior. This is Axel, grooming himself, because sometimes when you see a circumstance where you have some antagonistic behavior, you may have a grab bite that may be subcutaneous, and it may not be something that you physically see on the surface. So you just want to pay attention. Are they focused on a particular area? Now you always have to be aware as well that pine pitch can make things visually look like there's something there. Along his face, he's got a couple of places where he's gotten into some branches and some pitch. To the Axel's left eye, he's got a little bit of pine pitch on his eye. So always want to be aware of the environmental conditions that can make for abnormalities as well. But even, like I say, even grooming, we're just kind of watching. He just came out of the pond, so it's not uncommon to groom. He's got a little bit of a burr there where he's resting his head. Not uncommon at all to see animals grooming to clean themselves, but it also is something that we watch for if there's an excessively long time that they're focused on one area. We may be witnessing something that's a little bit more serious. So these are all the things that are important to us to be able to monitor, as well as overall pack condition. So again, trying to reduce the stresses over this time of the year, because stress can redirect to other wolves. So if there's anxiety, they may redirect to another wolf in that circumstance. We are seeing a little bit of wild wolf activity around the backyard, but nothing too serious that would cause any external stresses. Over in retirement, we did a treatment of their wading pool. So they've got a pond on the east side, they've got a wading pool in the pack holding area. And what we did, we have what we call some soy paint that we coated the bottom of the pond. It's an aquatic-based soy component, so it's safe for the wolves to have. And it gives them an opportunity to get a little bit more traction than just that pure concrete that was in there. And also, again, keeps the algae or makes it easier to clean algae off of that surface there. So the lower part is a specialized safe paint for the aquatic applications, and then the upper part is just regular paint to kind of, again, protect that area, to keep it easier to clean, and certainly to keep the algae under control. So Grizzer is the first to go in, and that's obviously good for his leg to have a little bit of a water therapy there. And then he went into his typical Grizzer 500, which, like I said, at 13 and a half, that's amazing that we get that kind of speed out of him at this age. Luna wants to join in, and Grizzer is a little bit, mindful of her participation. When her stimuli to run is typically associated with some kind of dominance, so he can hold his own there. So Luna, the same kind of thing. This is good therapy for her. You may notice her tail is in a really much higher posture than it normally is. She's been really receptive to body work in the last probably 2 weeks since we finished up the workshop on June 25th. We're seeing just a much better posturing to Luna's tail. That's been one of those things that we've struggled with for her whole life, is just how that tail seems to be locked down into a little bit more of a threat kind of display, or kind of a lower tail posture there. So it's been really nice to see that, and she willingly approaches staff. She presents herself for staff, and that's got to feel good to have that kind of release on her tail. And so anything that we can do to make her feel better, that's definitely an advantage. So like I said, I'm watching Luna's weight. She's down to 105, and we're going to continue to try to help her lose weight. Grizzer is always on a daily feeding regime because he's 13 and a half, and he eats a little bit differently. Luna is on twice a week, like she would be if she were in the pack. But we are working out the management between these two to make sure that Grizzer gets his needs and Luna doesn't take any of the excess food of it away from him. So it's been working out real well, and both of them are thriving in that kind of scenario. So hopefully to get Luna another 10 pounds off before winter would be helpful. And then when the 80 degrees hit, especially for Luna with that dark coat, you just find a nice, cool place to rest. And that's what the den allows her to do, plus being up a little bit higher off the vegetation, not quite as buggy. So we're seeing some heat, and the wolves are managing pretty well with it. Definitely encouraged to have all of their winter hair brushed off, so that makes it a little bit easier. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next week. She likes her dad. All right, I suppose.